Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Aaron coming at you from the Castle of Unending Doom, the seat of Lord Aaron and Lady Jen in Edmonton, Alberta, aka the Wellington Court Apartment. And I wanted to do an episode because this is something that's actually come up a couple of times in my discussions with others when I tell them that I've bought a souvenir plot of land through Highland Titles, and also another one through Dunan's Castle for the castle restoration program that is going on there. So doing spending a little bit of money towards conservancy of nature and conservancy of a traditional Scottish castle. So the point is that a lot of people have asked me or made the comparison. You bought this souvenir plot of land. That must be a lot like that international star registry or some of the other star naming schemes that are out there. And on the face of it, one might draw that conclusion pretty quickly, but the reality is there's pretty significant differences between the name a star system and the whole process of purchasing a souvenir plot of land in Scotland. So let's talk about that. First and foremost, I suppose you could say there is a similarity between the two in that the name a star scheme is you're not really naming a star outside of a particular registry. So if there's a company that is set up to do a name a star, they have a registry, and some will make sure that they don't sell the same star name twice. Some have been known to sell the same star name twice. Depends on the company. The more reputable ones won't. But really, it's at the discretion of the company. And the naming of stars is not actually done through a particular company. There is an international organization that is responsible for naming the stars, and none of the star naming companies that are out there right now are plugged into that. So, in a sense, there is a similarity between the name a star and purchasing the souvenir plot of land in that there's no recognition of the right outside of the particular organization, which is kind of that whole thing between real property and personal right of property, except not really, because in the case of the star registry, it's the same sky, it's the same landscape, if you will, or skyscape, if you will, and several companies are using that same skyscape to give those names, to provide those names, to sell those names. And so that star that you may have bought, or the constellation or whatever, may have been bought and sold several times by numerous companies, or maybe even the same company. So that differs from the purchasing a souvenir square foot plot of land in Scotland, for instance, through Highland Titles or Dunan's Castle or other souvenir plot schemes, in that souvenir, first of all, that area of land, the overall area of land, even though the purchaser of the souvenir plot may not have real property rights, the person that sold that square foot plot of land does have real property rights. And so it's already different than the name a star system because only one organization or person can actually own that land. And there's also rules that that souvenir plot of land, because of the law that bestows a personal right of ownership to the land, it turns out that there are options for those that purchase souvenir plots of land to sue for their rights against the real owner, not third parties, but against the real owner of that whole area of land. Came across a great example of what that might be. So let's say you went to your souvenir plot of land and there is a lumberjack chopping down a tree that was on your souvenir plot of land. You, as the holder of the souvenir plot of land and the personal right, would not have any rights against that lumberjack that was chopping down that tree, especially if it was given by the real property owner. However, if that lumberjack was sold the same souvenir plot of land that you were, both you and the lumberjack would actually have rights to sue the real property owner. This is the analogy. I'm not a Scottish lawyer, but this is the analogy. So there is a difference there in terms of the property right, as it is with the name a star system. You actually do have a degree of right over the land that you purchase, the souvenir plot of land that you purchase. So these are two pretty significant pieces that differ between the name a star scheme and the souvenir plot of land. Owning the souvenir plot of land, you actually have rights over it. It can't be sold again. And one of the, probably the most obvious of all of the differences between, at least at this state, in this time and this place, unless you happen to know an alien, you can't actually go visit your star and, put a tree around the star system there. Whereas if you do own a souvenir plot of land, you have rights of access. You have rights to be able to plant a little tree or whatever it is that that you wish to do, or whatever right of access you have to that land or the souvenir plot of land. So, where it is described in law that a star naming scheme is essentially, even though your name gets entered into a company's registry, you're paying for an expensive piece of paper, basically, is what the name a star scheme is all about. Whereas with something like selling a souvenir plot of land, it's actually a deed. There's more a substantive weight behind that piece of paper. The other thing is a lot of these companies that do the name a star thing, it's a for-profit venture in a lot of cases. Not saying everybody is. Whereas, and which is true also of some souvenir plot schemes in Scotland and other places, but companies like Highland Titles or the whole Dunnon's Castle restoration project, when you are putting money into those schemes, certainly Highland Titles, we'll use that as an example, you're actually participating in a crowdfunding venture to support a better project, a larger project, which is Nature Conservancy. Whereas, that's not the case. I don't think I haven't come across anyway, any sort of, name a star company that's donating part of its revenue to building a space shuttle to get there, or some such scheme. Star Conservancy. That'd be hilarious if they were trying to sell that. So again, there's a difference. There's a real tangible element when it comes to the souvenir plot of land scheme as opposed to the naming a star scheme. And there's also some real rights that go along with it. So there it is. That's some differences. And like I said, there are some protections that exist for those that have a souvenir plot of land in Scotland versus protections if you name a star. Really what you're doing is you're naming a star only for a particular organization that may or may not exist in a year or two. So those are the differences. And they, at first, like I said, it may seem pretty insubstantial. It may appear similar, but in reality, there's actually a lot more to the souvenir plot of land scheme than there is to a name a star approach. Even though they do get compared from time to time, when you really dig into it, your money's probably better spent and probably put to better use in a lot of cases with the souvenir plot of land in Scotland scheme, as opposed to naming a star, which you're not actually doing, because nobody outside that company actually recognizes it. And your star may be sold over and over and over again by different companies. There it is. So that's my attempt at doing a comparison between the Name a Star scheme and the Souvenir Plot of Land scheme, and hope that it was helpful to you.